if the music will work.
Integral part.
You're listening to the MLS Fantasy Insider, bringing you weekly tips, tricks, and advice for the official MLS fantasy game.
All right. Hello, everyone. We are live with our broadcast now. Let's see here. Just working on getting the social out there. But of course, first things first, for all of you all who are here, you know what time it is.
Recording in progress.
There it goes. We are. I was trying to make it a bit more like part of the whole event sort of thing there, but
I enjoy it. It used to just be a me thing, and I felt a lot of pressure.
and now it's everybody.
I enjoy that it's now a group thing.
Everybody. So let's see here. Okay, we've got the social out on Discord. Let's put it in the main chat. Let's see here. Hey, everyone here. We're live with around 13 DGW stream. That's right. Double game week, everybody. Get hyped. Get hyped. A real one, yes, not the first one. A real one. This is a real.
I got the first one.
Double game. It was not
It
worth.
was the dumbest thing.
It was not worth
Rick
nothing.
says he can barely hear me, and no one has ever said that to me in my entire life. So I'm not sure where that's coming from. I can put my headphones on, I guess.
12.
Everybody else can.
Almost messed that up. Let's see here. Is this right? There we go. Is that where I normally put these things? No, it's the other account.
I'm quiet too.
Is it? Is this me with my? Do I need to do the? How am I
Actually,
doing, everybody?
quiet.
I think I'm a little bit hot, so I'll pull that down. Yeah, just check out from the wow,
She's not.
That's a lot. Here, let me get this a little bit closer because some of that's kind of crazy how low that was brought down. Anyway, let's see here.
I had some.
You just tell me what everybody is saying, and then I'll get the social.
I'm quiet now. Reed's quiet. Reed sounds fine, but the latest is you're quiet.
My read is quiet.
Well, I brought it down a little bit. Let's see here. Okay, social's out, so now let's work on the volume. So this is unless I get super loud. I'm trying to keep it here in the green, kind of the.
Tyler says better now.
Sub minus 20 dB is what I'm shooting for here with the mic stuff.
Thanks, Eric.
Yeah, odd old sounds better now. Okay, just keep letting us know, and I'll tinker with things as it goes. So yeah, there we go for that. All right, thank you so much for joining us, everyone. Social's out on Twitter. Please do share that if you are so kind. Social is out on Discord so that everyone is there and knows that it's here. We have a double game week coming to you this week, so it's going to be super great, crazy, super fun. We're going to try to get through this as quickly as we can to still give you the content that you want. But yeah, let's get this started. If you're joining us, oh no, this is I did at the beginning. So yeah. Oh, hello, Pod Chat. Yes. All right, here we go. Hello and welcome to the MLS Fantasy Insider, our preview of Double Game Week, round 13 of the 2024 MLS Fantasy season. This episode is brought to you by the Year of the Face Punch. First Cincinnati, then Toronto. No, wait. Sorry. Actually, brought to you by our amazing MLS Fantasy Insider Patreons. It's because of you that we are able to keep this project going. Find out more over at patreon.com/MLSFI. I'm your host, Reed Connolly from MLSFantasyBoss.com, and tonight I'm joined by my partner in fantasy, Ashley Savage. We'd also like to welcome our special guest, Matt Nelson, a.k.a. Tinkerman, from the MLS Fantasy Boss Discord server and a co-contributor to the Differentials article this season. How are you all doing tonight?
I'm great. I can play.
And that is what's
Doing well.
important. Yes. That's important. Glad that you are here. Is that your current screen name, Matt, or have you, as with Panda, adjusted things this season?
I should be back to Tinkerman. I was Frankie Mermaid for a while,
That's like
but
there's
the time of Velocipaster has passed.
There was a hot minute when I was like, wait, I got thrown off, so just wanted to make sure. But yeah, no, super glad to have Matt with us. You've seen some of his musings in the articles that we post. Very happy to have you here, especially because this is a double game week. If you are not already aware of that, it is super important. Games will be starting on Wednesday this week for this round. We will talk about that multiple times throughout this episode, but getting it out right here at the beginning. This is the first time that you've joined us here for our live stream. Welcome to YouTube. We are coming to you live pretty much every Monday whenever we can. Because of these double game weeks that happen, that's why we prioritize Monday and do sometimes seem to come out so early. It's because of rounds like this that we're trying to get to you as soon as we can to help give you these musings and thoughts and information as we go into these rounds. So happy to have everyone here.
Also, just in case you get locked out of the game come Saturday, it's a team by Monday,
So that's right, so that you can be ready. And we're going to put a nice pin in. Of course, last week we talked about the Facebook hiccups that happened. The people that we know at MLS were super responsive in trying to, even though it may not have felt that way to some people, they were super responsive in trying to get the problem solved. They did fix it for this last round, so everyone should have been able to log in through Facebook and play this week. But Ashley, we'll let you come full circle to complete your catharsis for this week. PG. Let's keep it PG.
Yeah. Nope. I don't need to swear anymore.
Because you're back in. You're in. So
I'm back in. It's not a rant. It's no longer a rant. I'll start this the same way I started last week, which is just giving a lot of props to Skylar. Skylar is the main person that Reed and I communicate with on that side of things. And he was incredibly communicative, reached out after the podcast, is always as helpful as he can be, because I consider Skylar one of us. I know he does a lot, with MLS on that side, but, he is a player just like the rest of us. And so I really appreciate, how he reached out and would give updates and things like that. Just generally, I appreciate that everyone in Discord let me have an epic tantrum about it and didn't shit on me for it. And especially Christian, who I feel like I had a 20-minute conversation with and basically prepared myself to not play the rest of the season. I already created a new account. I was ready to just keep track from that, but then I realized I had a budget and I was like, I don't even play this now. This is ridiculous. I'm not going to be good. And so Skylar has given me permission to just add 11 points onto everything I do. And I will do that for the rest of the year. And I make no apologies as I say where I'm ranked and what I did. For the rest of the year, there will be 11 points added to it because I got locked out of the game. I think that, I'm really happy that they fixed it. I'm very glad, that they were able to do it by game day. I think it's ridiculous that it took that long. People that understand what was wrong, because obviously I don't understand what was wrong. What's wrong is that I ever used Facebook as my login, but I don't understand the technical side of things. But people who do, the way that it's been explained to me, it's still ridiculous. I think there's a lot to take from this situation, as far as, what MLS is thinking and what they're, contributing to stuff like this. And again, that's not to reference Skylar or anybody else, but I think that, it just kind of shows the effort that's being put in, and that's just disappointing. So I'm glad that everybody can play. If you didn't know that you could play because it didn't happen until Saturday morning, you can, get back in there, and don't quit like I tried to do, but Reed wouldn't let me. So yeah, I'm glad that this is behind us. I'll probably continue to bring it up because I'm gonna be butthurt about it for the rest of the season, but I'm glad it's behind us and we can all move on.
So there will only be a slight caveat, I guess, for this round, since you did get to log in, but you didn't have that normal time to adjust your team. But let's start talking about our takeaways from round 12. Matt, how did you do?
I did fine. I got a 91, and I know I should be happier with that than I am. I was so convinced LAFC wasn't going to get a clean sheet Like I would have bet my entire life savings on that. Not really, but
The
I
stats
was
back
so
you up,
convinced.
Matt. Yeah.
Yeah, I was, and seeing, I didn't really watch many games on Saturday. I was doing Mother's Day weekend stuff, but seeing my little FOP mob notification that ended 3-0, I was so mad. And so, like, it was what could have been if I didn't pivot to Berkey and Hybert. I could have just stuck with LAFC for a late pick, but I didn't. But 91, I'm fine with 91. I should be happier. I won all my head-to-heads, so that's what matters, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, for me, that's a huge motive there. Any kind of general thoughts or takeaways?
San Jose's fun now? Question mark? Like, Espinoza and Lopez kind of teaming up is kind of cool. That's fun. Muriel finally showed up as well. I don't know if that's going to last, but he scored some bangers. And shout out to Hector Herrera for, like, being back and doing cool things. Other than that, away teams swept it. They had 8 wins versus 5 home wins this weekend. And maybe we should start targeting Atlanta and SKC more than I already was, just based off recent performances. But otherwise, I know Atlanta has people coming back from injury too, but they've both been, I keep expecting them to be better, but they keep getting worse. So maybe it's time to look at them a little more. Yeah.
Yeah, Atlanta was a huge one. Ashley, how'd you do?
Yeah, I really wanted to come back with like a big pop. I was like triple digits or bust, and I didn't, and I got an 84. And I'm not crazy mad, but I'm not happy either. I scrubbed Puj to take Gazdag's 9. I could either scrub Puj or Bawanga, and I went with Bawanga. I shouldn't have scrubbed either of them and just left those 9 points on my bench. But who does that? I'm not leaving 9 points from a midi on my bench. So that was a mistake, and I too, like Matt, I had the Red Bull keeper on my bench. They conceded early, so I quickly pivoted to what felt most comfortable in Berkey and took out Hugo Lloris, who is so cheap and has barely any shutouts and statistically was not supposed to do that. But, what are you going to do, right? And then I didn't have any shutouts in my defenders. I was talking to Wojo at one point this weekend and just was like, is anyone? And he's like, probably Houston. And then Houston got scored on. And, it just, there were so few shutouts this weekend. It was hard. Kudos to anybody who went for that Charlotte defense, which I'll talk about in a second. But I'm currently 26 overall with Facebook point corrections, which is the only way I will refer to myself for the rest of the season. Skylar gave me permission, so you just,
Yeah, no, I mean it.
Yeah. Some players that impressed for me. I mean, not to give them so much credit because they made me mad, but LAFC finally kept a shutout. That was impressive for me. Home shutout hasn't happened. Oliveira for them finally popping. I don't think we've said his name on the podcast. That's how insignificant he's been so far. But he sure looked fun. Denis Bawanga getting a bunch of assists and no goals. That was not on my bingo card for the year, but was fun to watch. And then, this is pretty fundamental, but Chicho and Benteke are still scoring. And I don't think they're getting enough credit for it, honestly. Matchups that we wouldn't have expected. I didn't expect Christian Benteke to go into Atlanta and get a hat trick, but he did. And then in not the same category, but Raul Ruidiaz scored again this week. He is scoring consistently. 1 goal, maybe 2. But, he is scoring consistently, not just from penalties. And to score a banger like he did at Portland also was not on my weekend bingo card. But he scores against Portland, so definitely something to pay attention to. Maybe he's getting back into a run of form, ? And then just some general thoughts. Another home clean sheet for Charlotte, which is becoming somewhat regular. I'm not going to give it a full-blown regular, but it's becoming relatively consistent. Nashville's not a crappy offensive team. They're not playing great offensively, but there's pieces there. So that was both surprising and encouraging to me. I don't know what's happening to the Philadelphia Union. I am confused by them. The things that I want to bet on for them. I've found that I can't the last few rounds. The way that they're letting in goals at home, I know that, it's the backup keeper. I understand how that can impact a team, but it's just really interesting to me to see the difference in them. And then just from a homer point of view, I feel compelled to mention that the Sounders can win and score goals from open play. And that is just a revelation to me at this point of the season. I have dubbed it the season of really bad losses and really great wins. And I don't know what to expect from them anymore. But that was nice to see goals and another road win, only road wins from Seattle.
Yeah, so you got to see something like that and get back into the
on
game.
Mother's Day. I felt
on Mother's Day. So let's see. So I'm just looking through chat right now. See lots of great scores right there. Highest score for the round was 121 points. And that person had all the big name people. Could have definitely been optimized right there. For myself, I was pleased with the way the round ended up. 94 points. Still had some mixed results in head-to-heads because you people are crazy in the MLS Fantasy Boss Discord pyramid of leagues. It was just a wild ride there. But no, pretty happy with my team. I had I don't know how chalky I guess it might have been. Considered overall, but I did go with Lloris in the goal, and I know that last week I said I would have been shocked to see them get that goal. I did not feel like that was a good chance at all, but I set up this team with the keeperoo, and I was like, you know what? I was either going to go with New York or St. Louis in the goal at the beginning. Went with New York. That did not go as I hoped. And so I was like, this was the fallback. I mean, I was either going all in or not. And either way, I was like, well, if I went with LAFC and they didn't get a goal, that's what I would have been stuck with anyway with one of my main guys. So might as well take the shot. And it took the flyer and it worked. And so got those points there. Did not do the same thing with my defense because, again, I didn't have a lot of faith in that as well. I did go with some St. Louis people there and some of the general chalk. I did have Pooch. I did have Bawanga. Got to bring in Forsberg and Cucho off of the bench for my Aroos that I worked out right there. Did also have Amada, so I definitely agree. Seeing Atlanta not produce like that was a big surprise that was there. And
Lennon still was 6, though. I mean,
right, they got some of
had this
those.
whole conversation about defenders who should produce even if without shutouts, and I would say he still is, but it's getting close.
I mean, like getting sixes for a defender that doesn't get some of that is pretty good now with what we're clean sheet hunting for in that world. But you guys touched on some of the big things. I mean, talking about Benteke, Arango, Pooch, Klaus got a brace right there. We've talked about how he's had a lot of shocks
Talked about him last week
production, right?
Yep.
And these are guys who are going to be targets going into the double game week. So seeing this production that they're having, getting that momentum going as we're going into the DGW is going to be very important. Otherwise, I think you guys have touched on some of the most significant takeaways that we've seen for this round. Don't want to spend too much time on it because this is a big DGW. It's going to be important for everyone to keep that in mind with everything they do. Definitely going to be a mixed bag of where you ended up with this round. I know for me with a 94, I still did increase some in my rank, and so it's just really going to depend. I think if you got triple digits, you probably felt really good about this round. But then depending on where you were at, I think the 90s is definitely a respectable score for where people who are seriously playing the game, where you're looking at where that average probably is. So lots of strong scores that I see in the chat. Some people not happy. It was a weird round too. It was definitely there were some curveballs in this one, especially those clean sheets. So it is what it is. But big DGW coming your way as we get ready. It's a great time to recuperate, to pivot, and we've got some great talking points that we're going to get to you right after our housekeeping, which is coming up next. Okay, so there trying to go through. I mean, not too much crazy stuff really to take for that last round. I just don't want to. I have a strong suspicion, everyone, that the team that got number 1 is a dead team. Like,
Oh,
Benteke, Arango, Boanga, Captain Benteke, not a Miami player in sight. Has a Hebers there on the bench with a -1. Like,
that is a dead team. I
like,
was.
overall ranked.
There was a team. Where are they? They were in the top 50 during the weekend at some point that had Captain Benteke. Who was it?
I mean, I'm going to question any of those because it's like he's great.
Yeah.
I totally get it, but on the road,
On
with
the road.
Messi as an option, with what he's been going on,
No,
it's definitely against the grain. But I'm just like, well,
Yeah. Like this guy, 31 overall. Hindsight is optimal. Captain Benteke has Christian Roldan, Alex Roldan, like some weird picks, but apparently he's
take
doing
Alex
really well.
Roldan on
Whoever
the road?
hindsight is optimal, if you're out there,
Yeah,
you're doing well. Just making
Agreed.
some wild picks.
yeah, that's wild.
Which, I mean, that's part of the the chalk.
Tyler said he finished the injury stuff.
Fantastic. I've got it bookmarked. All right, social's gone out on Twitter for this upcoming segment, and here we go. Oop, almost forgot to change the graphic. Whoop, there we go. Don't forget that. That's been super cool this year. Thanks for the suggestion. Hello and welcome back to our housekeeping segment going into round 13 of the fantasy season. Of course, we're going to start very quickly with our MLS Fantasy Boss Pro Rel League updates. Almost every team has a solid, clear number 1 right now. Champions League, boy named Sue Wojo with a record of 11-0-1. Veterans League, the Moran Don't with a record of 10-0-2. The Homegrown League, She's a Keeper, aka Ashley, with a record of 11-0-1 by points. So
I shouldn't be there.
the only league, but you get the
Also,
special shot. But you should
my-
be because of.
I won my head-to-head this week by 1 point, so it's not.
It is what it is. Then the Discovery League, Tommy's FC with 11-0-1 right there. Moving on to the MLS Fantasy Boss Network of Leagues. The Discord Head-to-Head League, we have Rain City Football Club with a 12-0-0, the only perfect that we have in this list. Down to the Patreon Head-to-Head League, Garth Butchers with a record of 11-0-1, who's also the number 1 player overall, hangs out in our Discord. Little plug right there.
He won now?
I think he's number 1. He's like smashing people.
I like
He is
a
one.
good
Sorry.
margin.
Like
15 points, I think.
Yeah, 15,
Yeah,
16 points.
it goes Garth Butchers, Cam, and then Christian, which is awesome.
Yep, that's us right there. And then, of course, the MLS Fantasy Insider Experts Invitational League, Skylar, Draft Kicks on top, 10-0-2. And so, right there, maybe a caveat.
9-0-3.
It's not
9-0.
Hey, I'm right up there. I'm listed as 4th, but there's 3 of us tied at 2nd, and so it's by
I
points
know,
right
that's
there.
crazy.
Skylar is a previous winner of the Experts Invitational as well, so could be our first 2-time winner. So we don't have anyone who's won twice yet in the year. So we'll see further on that. Moving on, let's talk about this double game week. Which, did I mention it's a double game week? Because it's a double game week. So that means that for round 13, that everything starts on Wednesday, May 15th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you're listening to
What day is it, Reed?
it is Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Wednesday. On May 15th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with a bunch of teams. This is a typical Apple TV start time minus the early teams, so 7:30s, 8:30s, 9:30s, 10:30s is going to be very important. The next set of games is Saturday, May 18th, and that starts out at 1:45 with Nashville versus Atlanta, and then we have the usual Apple TV lineup after that with the 7:30s. But so that is the first team, though. It starts a little bit earlier on Saturday, 1:45. Everything starts on Wednesday. Be sure, because the players who you are likely going to be targeting are going to be locking on Wednesday, and so you will have decisions to be made. So who are those teams? Almost everybody is playing on a double. It's honestly going to be easier to tell you who is not playing a double than it is to say who is, but we will shout out a few. So the teams who are on a single game week, so only playing one time. I'm trying to put some more emphasis on this because I know we had a double game week earlier in the season. It was a really weak. This is the first big double game week. So
Everybody.
yeah, single game week teams: New England Revolution, Dallas, LAFC, and Sporting Kansas City. Of the other teams, everybody's playing. Of the other teams, we have 6 of them who have a double home game, and that is Austin, Chicago, Cincinnati, Minnesota, Nashville, and Real Salt Lake. And then we have 5 teams who are on a double away, and that is Atlanta, Columbus, LA Galaxy, New York Red Bulls, and Vancouver. Everyone else is splitting home and away, just however that lines up. So you can see that lineup if you go to the MLS Fantasy Boss Discord up in the main MLS section or the main MLS chat and go to the pin, the little thumb pin icon to see what's been pinned, in addition to seeing the player poll for this round. You can also see a little breakdown with the logos of all the teams lined up, or if you're a more visual person. So go check that out if you want to see, because you will need to see the little icons. As far as teams on a bye, nobody is on a bye. However, Dallas is the last single game week team to play in the round. So they will play on Saturday. I think it's maybe an 8:30 or 9:30 game. It's not the last, but Dallas is the last single game week team to play. And so using Dallas players to help potentially utilize switcheroos is likely going to be your best option this time. They will give you the most chance to preview a team before deciding if you want to use those players. Now, will you need them? Will that action be necessary? We'll see. We'll talk about that coming up, but that's how you can utilize Dallas. Now, I'm going to get into the suspensions and injuries and all that good stuff, bad stuff, however you want to look at it. But this is going to be very important for this round once we get to our yellow card section, which we've kind of been teasing for the last couple weeks. So starting out, big thanks to Tyler for getting this together for us. Starting out with the good news, Evander has returned from the bench this last week. So I know that was good news for fantasy, Ashley. It was been, and good news for Portland, because they have been in a rough spot without him, or as we would contribute to him. I think a lot of people would. But so he is back there for into the fantasy fray. Reynoso is back in Minnesota, and I like the note here that is good news or bad news. He has a long process to be back in the first team, though. So this is just an up and down drama. But for what it's worth, Reynoso's there. I don't think we'll see him, but
I read Christian needs to do some digging and then tell us. But what I've read about it was that this is part of the process that he agreed to for them to sell him in the next window, but that he is not intended to be a part of the team. Does that make sense?
That was my understanding too. I saw Tom Bogert say something similar.
Yeah, it was like he's back, but he's not back. He's just there. That's part of the agreement for them to sell him, as he needs to come back.
He's wrapping it all up. Yeah.
He's going to make a great Netflix documentary one day.
It's a weird thing.
Just drama.
It is. Let's move on to yellow card suspensions. We have 4 of them. We have Federico Bernardeschi is on a red card. Kevin Long is on a red due to accumulating yellows. We have Thomas Chanclay from New England. Yellow card accumulation has gotten into a suspension, and then Nuhu through yellow cards has gotten into suspension. So right there. Now we're getting into yellow card watch, and this is so important. So these are the big name players who are on yellow card warning. Of course, when you get that level, you get those yellow cards, and you have to miss the next game. This could be ticked. These are double game week players who, if they get a yellow in their first game, will not be available for their second game. So take this into consideration when you're having your players, when you're setting up your lineup, who may or may not be on your bench. So players on the yellow card watch: Chicho Arango for RSL, Lucho Acosta for Cincinnati, Damian Lowe for Philadelphia, Sebastian Kowalczewski. Sorry. Yes, he expected me to pronounce it, and of course I did it without reading his note. So Kowalczyk. Thank you. Branch also got this to us late, and so I didn't get a chance to preview it, so I'm just reading it live. Sebastian Kowalczyk is on Yellow Card Watch, and Brian White from Vancouver. It's important to note, too, for Vancouver, that they have, I think, a Canadian champion game coming up also next week early, maybe Tuesday, and so they're on a double this round, and they have one coming up pretty quick, so there could be a lot of rotation with Vancouver, so keep an eye on them. Injuries. Dylan Barrero from New England, Biro from Austin, Ilie from LAFC, Robin Jansen from Orlando, Alvis Powell from Cincinnati. Tyler asked me about this one. Non-contact injury is what I would call that. He just kind of pulled up after some runs, so not sure about the status, but he was definitely out. And keep an eye on that with Cincinnati, because that's basically. We may have Halsey. I think we should have Halsey back for this one, but we're down some of our preferred right backs right there, and I would not be surprised if maybe we see Yuya slot into that with how well Kelsey did this past round, which very impressed. And then Hidalgo from RSL, hamstring injury as well right there. A side note that wanted to be mentioned, which ties back in to, I guess, our beginning plug, our joke at the beginning. There was a fight that happened at the end of the TFC New York City FC game. Suspensions are expected to come from that, but none of them have yet been announced. So keep paying attention to the MLS page. Keep paying attention to Discord to find out more about that, and keep paying attention to this podcast if you want to hear me butcher names from time to time, because that's just part of the charm by this point. So yeah. I mean, if that's the kind of thing that makes you upset, then you're probably not going to hang around very long, but we have good content, and it's really just fun at this point to do that. So, but yes, that's from the Mega Reference. If you're interested in keeping up with all that, head over to the MLS Fantasy Boss Discord. Go down to the Fantasy Tools section. You can find it pinned there with a lot of other great information to see what is who is listed and what other kinds of resources you have, as well as the double game week teams are listed there. Players who are out of the league, so safe. Switcheroo targets there, as well as the injuries and set piece takers, everything that we mentioned. So the Mega Reference over at the MLS Fantasy Boss Discord. The easiest way to find that, mlsfantasyboss.com/discord. I know we try to get through that as quick as we can, because up next we're going to be talking about the players who we are targeting going into this massive double game week, and we will get into that right after this. Yeah, I didn't even read ahead, Tyler. You could have warned me about that one. You warned me about the fight one. Could have been like, oh yeah, I threw a name in there too. Let's see here. Can't bring yourself to bench Acosta. We'll talk about that. We'll
has a
talk about a lot of this.
Of double game week yellow card watch offenses, Lucho. He did it at least once last year, possibly twice.
So we will keep an eye on that. Okay, let's see here. Social. Going here. Like a laundry machine in the background.
It is yours. I was like, I'm doing laundry. Is it mine?
I know. I'm drying stuff. It could be mine too.
It's like across the house for me. So I was like, shit, is that me?
Oops. I was on the wrong one. It doesn't matter. I just retweeted anyway. And all right, there we go. The social is out for talking about our player picks. Let me get that faded in, and all right, thank you so much. Plenty of time. Here we go. Hello and welcome back to our third and final segment, where we are talking about the player targets that we have going into double game week round 13. This is going to be massive. Guys, if you have considerations about card watches or strategy that are being specially implemented for the double game week, please do mention that as we're talking through this at your own leisure right there. So we're going to start, as always, with keepers and defenders, and we have 3+ consensus recommendations. No, sorry, that's a note here. I thought you were typing right there, Ashley. But let's start with our keepers and defenders. Matt, what do you have?
Yeah, keepers. I feel like this is a pretty chalk pick, but Celentano for sure. He's like going into that. He seems like the best option, and he just was one of the first names on my team when looking at keepers. Defender wise, and I'm pretty sure this is fairly chalky as well. I'm doubling up with Robinson with Celentano. Some RSL asset, probably Glad, and Wagner too, probably. I get weird vibes from these matchups for him for some reason, so I don't know if I'm going to commit to it, but I also don't want to go away from something that could pop off. I'm also considering Houston. I know it's 2 Texas Derby games, but I think they're okay. They concede they're okay defensively though, and I think it could land a good shot for one clean sheet out of the 2. But probably going to stick with Robinson, Glad, and Wagner for me.
Ashley.
Yeah, I also like Celentano. That was the keeper that jumped out to me. I'm not doing a keeperoo this week. I'm just gonna pick a keeper and keep them. I tend to overthink it when I keeperoo on double game week, so I'm just gonna pick one. For defenders, I'm gonna kind of echo a lot about what Matt said. Robinson is the Cincy defender I want, but I also want to see how adjusted that Cincy defense is until I decide to double up, like Reed was mentioning earlier. I also like Glad for RSL. He's the RSL defender that I think is the most trusted. I know that we've had a couple different players that have gone on different bonus point scoring streaks, but that's the one that I think is just kind of the most constant. I also like Rodriguez from San Jose this week. I like him as kind of a placeholder, but also I think that he's been sneaking into some points. I don't know that I trust San Jose's defense, but I've kind of gotten into this mindset where I don't really even know that I'm clean sheet hunting anymore because I don't really think there's a lot happening there. Does that make sense? I think that clean sheets have become so inconsistent and so much harder to come by, kind of Premier League right? That I'm just looking at defenders who I like for their bonus point production and kind of just leaving it at that, which is why I also want Kai Wagner this week. I agree with what you said, Matt. There's something about the Philly matchups that I'm not sold on, but it's because of Philly's current form. That is what's not selling me on it. I also like Houston. I would like to have Mikal if I can swing it, but I hate derbies, and a double is tricky, right? I mean Houston has been one of, if not the best defensive teams this season, so it's hard to overlook them just because it's a derby when they're the better team in the derbies, right? And then lastly, I would really like Walker Zimmerman, but I don't know if he'll play both games. He came in at halftime this last round. Does he go both? Can he go both? For me, he is such an integral part of Nashville's defensive success, and that team has not been clicking defensively without him. And so while I think that their matchups are favorable, do I like him? I also think that this is an important, or will he play? I like him, but will he go both? I also think that this is a good point in our predictions to talk about the 5 at the back to scrub situation, which I think is a really, I don't always do it. I think it's a really good method for navigating a huge double game week like this, which is you pick 3 defenders that you like the most, and you make the other 2 scrubs. And you want to know, at least you should expect everybody else that you have to play both games. Maybe your yellow card watch players move to the bench or whatever, but I think that is a very viable tactic this week because clean sheets have been so hard to come by, and not necessarily unpredictable, but not necessarily following the data of predictions, right? I feel like clean sheets have just hit a little differently this season. So I think that's and for me, I would probably, again, depending on what Cincinnati's back line looks like, I would probably do a Wagner, Glad, maybe Robinson back line with two scrubs, but there's a couple other guys that keep popping into my mind, so I don't know if I'll end up with that formation or not.
Yeah, five at the back is definitely a great way to keep flexible and to utilize a lot of that your bench while prioritizing attacking players over, because you're guaranteed to have a valid defensive formation. So it's been a great tactic this year because of the changes. And I also want to add to that San Jose comment you make. You are absolutely right that adding in a San Jose player into any of the positions this week will give you a lot of flexibility for double game week players as well, because Portland and San Jose play the only 10:30 game of this round. And so if you like some San Jose players or if you like some Portland players, so either team here is definitely going to be an option for how you utilize this. But either of these two teams will give you the ability to preview a lot of points. You'll get to see all of those 7:30 games and the bulk of the 8:30 games before you decide if you want to roll with that San Jose player, or if you want to scrub them, or that Portland player, or if you want to scrub them for someone on your bench using like a Dallas player, one of the single game week guys. So those two teams are going to give you a lot of flexibility, and so they're great to throw in there if you like one of them. So we'll touch on some more of those players later. Rodriguez, great one for the defense. For me, this is the chalk, I think, is what we're looking at here. Absolutely 100% agree on Celentano as the one of the two chalk defender or keepers. The other one that I have is McMath. So I have a keeperoo set up with Celentano and McMath so that I have that 7:30 team pivoting into a 9:30 team. And I just felt like that was probably the safest bet with the 9:30 and 10:30 teams that were left to go into that McMath pivot. Totally get it if you just want to go with one, but don't forget that this is essentially, I know we like to say 2 bites at the apple. This is 4 bites at the apple. So I'm looking at double home for Cincinnati with, I guess actually it's 3. Anyway, double home with Cincinnati, with Atlanta, who's been struggling, and St. Louis, which is starting to get some form, but the double home game, very important, and so nice having Celentano back in the goal. And then looking down to RSL, Seattle, which you all have had some struggles in the past. You're kind of getting your form back, and then Colorado, which is a big game for RSL right there. But again, another double home team, and so I was really trying to prioritize a double home keeperoo that I thought might have worked. One of the names that I've seen thrown in chat that's really intriguing because they've been, again, a much more lower to the radar team this year, a frequent target in the past, and that's Nashville. Nashville is definitely up there as one of the teams that the stats say has a top 5 team for clean sheets chances this round. So seeing some Willis keeperoo options in chat. If you're going to go with Willis, though, the likely what's going to happen is you're going to go with a single game week keeper, or you're going to try to hedge your bets to go with someone from Portland, San Jose, or you're going to pivot to a single game week keeper, which is viable, but I don't know if I like any of the single game week keepers more than one of the doubles. So that's the only downside with going with Nashville. But the upside being, if you just think going up against a week in Toronto, you have a great chance at getting that clean sheet. And then they play Atlanta early, which has struggled to score. So that's one where you may not be even the pivot for the keeperoo is just there as well. Well, I get to see them. You will see both of these games before any of the single game week teams play, and so you can go from there. But you'll likely have a score better than the single game week keepers by that point. For defense, I'm moving to something different for how I talk about defenses on this show, and I'm going to move away from specific players and talking more about the teams that I like, because since we have been doing so much clean sheet hunting, a lot of this is you can target a guy who is maybe getting involved in set plays, or you can just target the cheapest person in this defense to go for that hunting. So that's more of how I plan to talk about defenders going forward. And so for me, absolutely, I'm having someone from Cincinnati and someone from RSL. Similar reasons why I mentioned those two keepers. I think they have a great shot. They're both high in the chances for clean sheets this round, and I have that chance to double up. So a player from either of those two teams. Next, I'm really looking at players from Houston, and I'm looking at players from Nashville, and I'm looking at players from Philadelphia because they have some higher clean sheet odds this round as well. And so those got some options there depending on what your budget looks like right there. After that, it's up in the air. I think you could potentially look at a Charlotte team if you wanted to go with that, because they're going up against Chicago in their first game. So they have and they've been keeping some clean sheets. Got one last week, but they're going up against Chicago, which I rate as an easier game. Worry very much about LA Galaxy after that, though. So I don't think that's a chance. But you could have someone on your bench potentially right there. And then again, Dallas players you could have to activate your clean sheet chances to throw in there. So if you see people with Dallas in their teams that they post, they're likely not betting on Dallas for a clean sheet. They're using that to activate some sort of switcheroo. You guys already talked about San Jose. So those are the teams that I'm looking at this round. And checking the chat real quick. Yeah, I see some people talking about the chances for Cincinnati for a clean sheet. And I just touched on that a second ago, but I'll do it again right here in case people jump to this section. Did a great job last weekend and holding out as long as they did, and I felt really bad because when that goal came, Murphy got racked literally right before that. He caught the ball in the crotch, collapsed, just did pure adrenaline, got back up to try to do what he could, and then there was an amazing shot that went through, and then he immediately collapsed, and I was like, oh yeah, that's. You get a pass on that one, man. Totally. Totally get it. But center backs are solid. Celentano's back. There's going to be questions on the right side. Yedlin will likely not be available. Powell would not be available. Halsey was out last week because of a red card. Should be back this week. He's the second one who usually comes in. But I think with Kelsey coming on, getting the goal, doing some fantastic things, was clearly drawing people away from Acosta to really help with that pressure, which is what Vasquez did when he was here. I think it's likely that we could see Kubo that falls back to that right wing position to have Kelsey come in and start up top. If he's full fit for this double game week, there could be some weird things that happen there. But so that's going to be a little bit of a difference. I do not worry. If Kubo ends up starting back in the right back spot, I don't worry about that at all as far as an impact on the team. He started in that position earlier in the season. He has just been a journeyman playing whatever position we needed him to this year, and he's done it very competently and very well. So I don't worry about that point of view as the players. Atlanta does have talent, and so they've been struggling, but they could still get a goal with Gigi and Almada. Those are people who can definitely be dangerous. And then St. Louis has been generating goal-scoring chances, so you never know what could happen with these games. But that's why I think Celentano's in the mix, and that's why I feel comfortable going with him and other Cincinnati defenders right there. So long-winded. Let's move on to talking about midfielders. Ashley, who do you like?
A lot. I'd like probably 7 midfielders, 8 maybe, if I could this week. I know he's on a yellow card watch, but Lucho comes straight into my team. I'm also kind of lingering on the fact that he supposedly came into last week with a knock. Does he get rotated? He was always a rotation risk last season for double game weeks. So for me, he comes straight into my team and straight to my bench because he makes me nervous. And he produces, but those two combined things of, supposedly he had a knock. Would he play? Last round, he did, and he did great. But that combined with the yellow card watch, I'm just going to stash him on the bench and be safe. I really like Espinoza this week. Like Matt alluded to in the beginning, he and Lopez are looking kind of fun right now. And I think that he is starting to be a little more himself. The team might not be great, but he is. So he's definitely on my radar. I want to like Mukhtar, but he's been so inconsistent. it's the double home and the matchups for me that think
Yeah.
he's got to do it this week. You know what I'm saying? But like my heart is not fully invested in that pick, but my head says do it. And this is probably one of the more bandwagony things I've said in a while. I try not to be, I'll do a lot of chalk picks here, but I try not to be too bandwagony. But Rojas from Miami is just, it's a small data size, but it's a consistent data. So with their matchups, minimal travel, just going to Orlando and then home against DC, two teams whose defensive have been incredibly leaky. He's just fitting into that attack so well. I don't know if he's fully worth a midfield spot, but I like him and his projected points are great. But then I really struggle to round out that fifth spot. There's no way I'm scrubbing a mid. Is Evander healthy? Probably not. I don't know if he's not healthy enough to start. Is he going to go 2 double games? I don't really think so. Laud, he was in great form before they had a bye. They have pretty decent matchups. Do I like him? Hector Herrera, can he go 2? Driussi, again, kind of hit or miss with the form. Puig, 2 road games, but he's in form as well. So, again, I feel like it's a long-winded 9 to 10 midfielder example, but those first 4 spots for me are pretty locked down, but that 5th spot is a revolving door of people right now.
Matt.
Yeah, not too different for me. Lucho, he's on the bench right now. I'm probably going to start him, which, would be devastating if he does get a yellow card, but mostly because I don't trust Mukhtar. I want Mukhtar coverage. I don't trust Mukhtar, even though they're starting to figure themselves out. SB, of course, Evander's also there, depending on what Neville lies about midweek or actually says or what he's talking about. Who knows? Poosh, just because he's such a safe floor. I know matchups aren't wonderful, but I think it's safe floor. I'm considering Driussi. Just I feel like we all need to consider him going into those matchups. Same with Laud. Minnesota makes me nervous because Minnesota is just a little unpredictable with who's going to be doing anything. Laud should be the one, though. And Hector Herrera, too. I like rivalry matchups. I think he can... he's going to be starting. He went 120 midweek, I believe, and then put up 70 minutes, so he'll be pulling those strings. He can score goals like he just did this weekend. I think he should be considered as well. But outside of that, it seems like the core, like Ashley said, is there. Just that 5th mid is going to be probably the difference maker this week, and I'm considering way too many people for it.
Yeah, I have very similar team makeup. Lucho for me, 100% locked in, 100% at the bench as well. Just having to err on that side of caution with him. After that, I'm really looking at, like you said, Laud for previous form. Rojas, again, for previous form, though, is he performing above average? That's probably the best there. He's super cheap, and so that's another option right there if you could look at for Rojas. I know we didn't mention any Miami defenders, and that's because I don't think they need to be.
No.
But for a midfield point of view, I think that his name could be in the mix right there. But those are, for me, it's Lucho. That's the only real 100% lock. After that, I'm just floating around, looking at budget, looking at what's going to put in there. But you guys have said a lot of the names. Only ones I don't remember here. I know you said Herrera. At least you have Herrera down here, but also Bassi. I mean, someone from Houston in there, I think, is something viable. Do we have any love for single game week midfielders this week?
Oh,
specifically, I'm mentioning Heel. I've seen him in some teams, and so I'm mentioning Heel. So is everybody else so much better that anyone that we're going to look at specifically, New England versus Philadelphia, not a chance?
No, not for these double game week options. Maybe if it was like not quite a full double game week, but this is a full on only 4 teams not in a double game week. Absolutely not. No. Not with the way that he's been inconsistent either.
I think if he hits, more power to you, Reed. But yeah.
Oh, I mean, I'm not considering him. I thought that was a great discussion topic that we should have.
No. How many 2 bites of the apple conversations do we need? We don't need to.
No, this one's 100% there. I mean, I'd probably be more willing to take a flyer on someone like Gald than I would for a single game week keeper, just for that double game week option right there. But Forsberg, I see someone mentioning Forsberg again. I asked the question more rhetorical than anything else, that inevitably almost every double game week there will be a single game week player who like pops off and pops up somewhere on the radar because they just do so well. I mean, it happens. It is not game defining if something like that happens, but
it's gonna be something stupid like Kessler scoring a goal, getting an assist, and getting a clean sheet.
Exactly.
That's what's gonna happen
it'll be some crazy thing right there, or it'll be a double game week player with like Benteke gets a hat trick and then Click gets all the assists or something like that, and it just goes one of those ways. So it's though they're double game week players, so that's a single game week player gets a hat trick and then that kind of stuff happens. Like all of those things. I just wanted to say Click because of Tyler, that we don't get to talk about the DC people a lot, and he's not here with his jersey. But I just don't think any of them have that reliable chance, because 9 times out of 10 it's going to be these double game week players to have the opportunity. So I agree. It's the usual question we have to ask. I think you guys have mentioned all of the top players. Not really seeing anybody else in chat that I think is worth mentioning. Tyler did mention that Laud was a halftime sub in his previous game. He's had a whole week off as well, so we have that right there. Let's move on to our forwards. Matt, who do you like? But actually, up front, let's get this one out of the way. Messi. The Messi issue. I know we've all got him on our team. Let's just talk about this. Messi didn't do great last round. Got really grumpy about having to wait for 2 minutes on the sideline because of injury. And now we've got a double. There are questions about, will he play both? How much would he play if he does play both? What does this impact? So for you, let's just talk Messi right now. He's on all of our teams. How are you considering using him specifically, and the any hesitation you may have about him, Matt?
No hesitation really. I think he seems like when he's ready to go, he's ready to go, and he goes. We have Florida Derby. I forget what they call that down there.
Can't say gay.
What?
Can't say gay. Is that what they call it? Don't say gay. Come on, guys. You don't know this bit about Florida? You can't say gay in Florida.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying something about Kansas City. I had no idea what you said. I'm like, that.
No.
I don't know what you're talking. Okay, yes.
Reed will cut it later.
But yeah, so I doubt he sits then.
Yeah.
And then you're at home. I doubt he sits. Like, I think he's fine. And it's one of those things, like, I didn't watch much of games this past weekend, but it looked like he was involved in the attack regardless. If there was secondary assists, he would have gotten a secondary assist. Only reason why Rojas scored was because Messi was off the field not to take that free kick because he had to wait his 2 minutes, I think, right? Someone fact check me. I'm pretty sure that was it.
Yes, so that is correct.
Perfect. Yeah, I think he's fine. I think there is just times when a player can play well and not score good fantasy points, and I think that was it, and I'm not worried about it. He's my captain right now.
I am never a data person in my read. I barely ever fall back on it. The first double game week Messi played an 11 and a 15. And the first was a road game for him. And then that 15 he racked up against none other than Orlando City the last time they played them. In his last 6 games, he has only scored single digits one other time, and it was a 9 against Colorado. He's looking at a 13, 19, 19, 28. I am not upset about a 4. I think you've poked the bear. I think that they're on a hot streak. The man is on my team and getting my armband, for sure.
So, one quick aside: an official rivalry cup has not been named for Inter Miami versus Orlando City. The last one that existed was just called the Florida Derby, but apparently, according to Wikipedia, the name is called the Turnpike Derby. So.
Yep.
Potentially, we're going to go with Florida Derby.
I come up with something else.
There you go. Sorry, so that was a quick aside. For me, I agree with what you guys are saying. I think I agree with how it was put in Discord. I think is the best way to put it. That if Messi is in the 18, he's on my team, and he's likely a starter on my team. If he's only in the 18 and doesn't start that first game, I don't know if I make him my captain. That's one that I would differ from you, Matt, right there. But I would say if he's in the 18, he's on my team, and then from there can figure out if he's going to be captain or not. And very likely I would start him because of just the impact he can have off the bench as well. If he's not in the 18, we'll talk about that at the end of our picks. So Matt, go ahead and keep going on with the players who you're targeting for this roundup forward.
Yeah, and I guess I should clarify. If he's not starting Wednesday, I don't think I captain him either, but he's definitely on my team. I agree. I think the other chalk picks I think this week are going to be Chicho and Benteke. Chicho, you got two match. Like I personally don't like RSL for a clean sheet against Colorado. Rocky Mountain Derby is just wild all the time. And I think Chicho, the last time he didn't do anything, he can benefit from that a lot. So I think he should be the safe play, even if he's on yellow card accumulation watch. Benteke, I like Benteke. He scores goals. I have him in my draft team, and I love him in my draft team because he's the reason I'm winning. I'm not sure if I keep him this week, though he's in my team right now. I like Carranza a lot as well. And if I want to be fun with the differential, Rodriguez for Portland, I think could be a good play. Just looking at those two matchups, San Jose, even at home, can't defend, save their life. Or never mind, they're on the road anyway. Never mind, I was reading that wrong. Against San Jose, they can score there. And Minnesota, again, I don't know what Minnesota does. I don't think Minnesota knows what Minnesota does, and so I think, no offense to Minnesota, I like you guys, but I think that could be a spot for. I like those Portland's matchups, is what I'm trying to say, and I think there could be some room there for a forward, not just Evander.
Ashley,
Obviously Messi. Chicho has not. How do we refer to it as a full blown Barrios? Chicho just doesn't hit as well the weeks I have him. So. Yeah, I want him, but does he want me to want him? I can't tell. I have him right now. That Benteke feels right, but then I also live and die by my catchphrase, which is you never score a hat trick twice. So he feels a little bandwagon-y for me as well. I think Suarez is worth a little bit of love. I think he is the most. I understand he's not, hat tricking on the same scale that Benteke is, but Suarez feels like the most informed striker in the last run of 3 or 4 games for me. So it's hard to overlook him, but I'm always, and I mean always, worried that one of those two is going to get rotated. It just, it makes me Suarez more. But now I'm really starting to believe that all of the talk about his knees was a lie, or we have much better, injection drugs here for his knees. I'm not sure, but I'm starting to just not believe it, if that makes sense. So I think he's worth a shout. And then I've been a sucker for kind of last season stats, if you will, which is normal. We're only 12 rounds in, right? But Julian Carranza was the double game week god last season. He did get that red card that one time, but every other time he would absolutely shit the bed for you in the first game and then score a brace in the second, right? So I can't help but look at him. His form's not great. Philly's form's not great, but I'm just kind of finding myself drawn to him for some reason that I can't back up with actual data. It's just like my heart and my dreams are just going his way. Another person that kind of falls under that same category is I'd like to like Sir, is it Surridge? Is the Nashville Star? Is that how you say his name? Surridge? Is there a D? I might be misplacing, but I think it's pronounced Surridge. But he kind of falls into the same vein as Mukhtar, which Matt referenced earlier as well, which I don't really trust them. They're not really in form, either of them, but these are two very favorable games that I would expect them both to produce in. They don't have any injury knocks that I'm aware of to double home, but he hasn't really produced in a way consistent to a Suarez or a Benteke, right? That I feel like I would throw him on my team. So both he and Carranza are really, floating around in my peripheral, but I'm not sure if I'll pull the trigger on either of them. I think Benteke, Chicho Messi is the chalk, if you will, but I'm inclined to switch that third one up, perhaps.
My thing about Surge is he's good.
Yeah.
He in theory should be scoring goals because he gets chances, but he's not. And I haven't watched enough Nashville, but it seems like when I do watch, he's missing chances. Maybe he's finding his form, but like if we're looking at underlying numbers, like if we're looking at expected goals, Bakrar should be scoring lots of goals too, and he's not. And so I don't think personally, I'm not going to fade one of the chalk forwards for Sturridge. If I'm wrong, great, good for Nashville, and I like Sturridge. I think he's a cool player, and I like him as a guy. But I agree with you, Ashley.
Yeah, like I'm thinking about it, but I think I'm gonna think myself out of it, if that makes sense.
I mean, you guys make some good points about that and the underlying numbers. One person that we haven't mentioned yet, and I love chat with Jose there, just listing everybody. But Oluwaseyi from Minnesota is a guy who's gotten some goals. Minnesota is a team that's in the top 5 for potential XG this round as well. So and he's cheaper. So if you are looking at a budget option, if there's a name you could throw in. I like the Cucho potential right there. He's a forward. They made a great comment during the Cincinnati game last week about how he's a modern forward, and they said that in that he's more versatile, and that's great from fantasy with being able to provide some of that service as well as just being that target. And he got the 5 points right there as well. So that was last round. So I think Cucho works. 10.8 is fairly cheap for some of these forwards if you're struggling for that. I mean, definitely cheaper than the likes of Messi and Arango and Suarez and some of the other names that we've thrown. I think even Benteke is 12 or something like that. So and great scoring right there. But you guys have listed a lot of them. Again, it's going to be tough to get a lot of these people to fill in. I mean, definitely encourage people to look at using some of those 4.0 Dallas players to get your budgets. The wild card for me is Kelsey right there with Cincinnati, because that's when I first started looking at this team. I was like, wow, I wanted 3 Cincinnati players. I wanted Celentano. Is this a situation where I might not go with Robinson or not go with Celentano to go with Kelsey, and then look at some of these other keeper options that we've had? Because I was very small sample size, just 40, 50-ish total minutes that we have here. Got the goal last week, and what I saw was him pulling people attention away, pulling attention to him, which of course frees up Lucho, which is only good for fantasy potential right there. So, but that is a wild card that I'm dealing with right now. But I think you guys have covered all of the big names that we need to have here. Going to chat, check it out. Let's see here.
Can I touch back on your Cujo pick or reference there, Reed? Because I hadn't really thought about him, and then I scrolled through while you were talking, and he's at Montreal, garbage defense, and at Chicago, even more garbage defense. And those are 2 Eastern Conference teams for them. I wouldn't expect a ton of rotation. When's the next CONCACAF?
It's not for a little while. It's not.
Yeah, right?
It shouldn't impact this DGW.
Yeah, so I don't, I love to triple Ucho Icho, right? I don't see anything wrong there, but I don't I don't know. I that is an intriguing addition that I had in no way thought about. So kudos to you there.
Thank you.
It's worth a look.
Thank you so much. No, and then I'm definitely going to be thinking about Surge as well, because I mean, this is the same thing you're looking at with Mukhtar. So
Sure.
lots of potential right there. So yeah, everything there. So let's wrap things up as always with our captains. Matt.
It's messy. Yeah, without a doubt. If he doesn't start, probably considered Lucho. Even with the yellow card watch, I don't think he's. Well, maybe he's that dumb. I don't know. I don't think he's dumb enough to like go get a yellow card in a heat of a good home stretch for them. Also considered Chicho. Also on yellow card watch, I guess. So just like I'm attracted to yellow card.
That's the tough thing is I think two of the probably go-to fallbacks this round are on yellow card warning. So that could really
The danger's drawing you in, Matt.
Yeah. Your number one is potentially going to get rotated or have some split minutes. The next two are on watches. So Ashley.
Yeah, I mean, mine is obviously also on Messi. I think it's tough. I think if he doesn't end up starting on Wednesday, well, first of all, I'll go into full-blown panic, but I think I also would captain Lucho, but then that means I have to start him, which I currently wasn't, right?
Yep.
But I mean, maybe Chicho is a better fallback. He gets less yellow cards to me, but I guess if he's also on yellow card watch, does he? I don't. Statistically, I guess not, right? Because isn't Chicho's also on yellow card watch? Is he not?
He is.
Yeah. So I don't know. I in my head I chuckled when Matt said that, but now looking at my own team, yeah, that's kind of where I think I'd land. Now, if Messi's not starting but Suarez is, would I captain Suarez? Maybe. Maybe I would. Maybe I'd throw him in my team and he'd get it.
Would you go with 2 Miami?
Yeah, I did. I have for 2 weeks now, I think.
I mean, again, but this time, if Messi doesn't start, would you go with Messi Suarez and put a captain?
Suarez doesn't seem to have been that impacted by not. Like, if you look at the data of when Messi was hurt, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
He's still scoring. So, I would hesitate. I don't know. Let's just say I will be in a full-blown panic if Messi doesn't start on Wednesday because my options aren't rational. Right, Matt? I mean, Chicho and Lucho on yellow card watch is not are
like. I don't think Chicho if he's going to yellow card being against RSL, but that's a second game. I don't think Reagan can piss him off enough. Reagan doesn't. I don't know.
I don't think so.
I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a crapshoot. I mean, Arango's yellow cards are a bit more spread out over the season. Yeah. I mean, and Lucho gets like a bulk of his right at the beginning of the year, just like 3 games in a row. Got yellow, just kind of went there. Definitely some frustrations going on. Maybe they're in a better headspace at this time. It's been a while, but do you know who the last team was that Lucho got a yellow card against?
No.
It'd be Atlanta. So, who was the first leg of the double game week this time? Maybe he'll be on his best behavior. For me, it's Messi captain and looking at Arango as the backup. That's like who I would go to before going to Lucho because I do currently have Lucho on my bench playing it that way. So we'll see how that lines up. Looking over at chat real quick. People are in that same general 3 right there. So we'll see what happens right there. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us tonight. I know we tried to get through this one as quickly as we can because it is a quick turnaround with that double game week that is coming up on Wednesday. Be sure to have your teams set. Be sure to get your strategies set up, and be sure to come over to the Fantasy Boss Discord channel to make sure you have those things lined out. If you have any kind of questions about that, let's wrap everything else up with our plugs. Matt.
Discord. Always very helpful. Everyone is, yeah, they just want us all to succeed, which is nice. It's competitive and fun, but mostly you can send your team, say, what am I doing wrong? And people will let you know what they think. And whether you're right or wrong, it doesn't matter. But it's a nice community. It's fun to hang out in. And it's fun to watch soccer with people and just chat about fantasy.
Yeah.
Ashley.
Agree. I know this is going to sound contradictory, but I'm going to shout out MLS Digital and Skylar on them, because this time last week I was in full blown. I haven't pouted like that since I was a child, and I was ready to just not play the rest of the season. I was so pissed off, and I mean they didn't fully fix it, but they fixed it. So I don't think it's fair to not say shout out to MLS Digital for getting us ridiculous Facebook login users back into this silly game so we can play.
I thought you were going to shout out Facebook.
No, I would never. Part of me still thinks it's their fault. Christian told me it isn't, and I trust Christian, but I still think it's their fault somehow.
Next year you'll be using an MLS account, so we all know. We all know. For me, of course, yes, MLSFantasyBoss.com, where you can check out articles like Matt helps contribute to right there, as well as our Discord player poll. The Discord is just an incredible place to hang out with and go there. Quick little plug right now. You should probably see something coming out on Tuesday about this. I will be doing a guest Q&A, fantasy Q&A on Wednesday before games start, before the lineups lock. So I'll be there to answer some questions for people who might want to listen and do that. So if you have further thoughts about your teams, I'll be fielding those questions this week as kind of a guest fantasy person there, guest expert to come in and talk that. So takes me back to the days when Skylar and I used to kind of split that detail with doing those little Q&As before the game. So a lot of fun, which that's just part of the history of our 10th season here, all the things that we used to do and how involved we are. So thank you so much, everyone, for listening tonight. I hope that you got some information going into this double game week that's helped you refine your team and that you just kill it this week. So, but as always, good luck.